Welcome back to Solutions for the Soul podcast. I am Cherish Fields. I am the Chief Operations Officer and psychotherapist.
Hello, everyone. I'm Parker Tompkins. I'm a psychotherapist and clinical director at Soul Solutions. Happy to be back.
Hello, my name is Tanisha Rivers, also a psychotherapist at Soul Solutions.
All right. Today, I'm excited because we are going to talk about relationships and mental health, and specifically who you choose matters. This is really important because I believe that, right now, we're in a space where I'm hearing a lot about relationships and couples and just the different challenges that we face in the relationships. And so it made me think about like when we do see people, a lot of times the challenge is their relationships and how much it's affecting their mental health. And we don't ever want to say that out loud, but sometimes it is. It helps us understand that who we are in relationship with is a critical factor in how we are emotionally, mentally, and so on and so forth. So I think it's just a great topic to be able to discuss and talk about some of the things that we may need to see or pay attention to in ourselves. Um, and then also, how do we improve our mental health? And what does that relationship need to look like with ourselves to be able to get the relationships that we really do desire and we deserve? So it's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. And I'm excited to be able to be here with you all and share in this space to talk more about that. I just start off by just saying, so essentially, in relationships, we don't think about, we always think about like, you do think about compatibility. You think about, the person and how you're attracted to them. And I know we've all heard the saying that, love is not enough. And it's the truth. But I rarely hear about how we look at how does this person complement things that we need in terms of our mental and emotional health. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. And I want to start off by talking about the relationship that we have with ourselves. I think it starts with us. I think that's one of the most important pieces is to ask ourselves, how much do we know ourselves? How much do we understand about what our needs are? And how much have we explored? And here's the kicker. There are versions of us. And it goes back to something that I was thinking about this morning, actually, is our identities, the version of ourselves that had to maybe survive whatever we needed to in childhood, or the version of ourselves that had to survive something in adulthood. So when we come into the relationship, what version of us is actually showing up? That's really important to know because that is a part of that exploration of understanding where we are and understanding ourselves before we get into or enter into the relationship, because that really will help you to identify that match that you may, or that decision, that choice that you make for a partner. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I want to start us off at.
I just want to say too, I agree. I think the topic of relationships is very like trendy almost in a way, and
Yeah.
there's so much out there, whether it's, what's healthy, what's unhealthy, what are the red flags, what are these different attachment, and I think that we'll touch on a few of those things today, but I think that what's talked about less, and then I hope that we can bring to the light is really the importance of self and how our relationships are either negatively or positively aligning with what we have or not aligning, right? Because I think that we do a lot of, we can look at, is this the right person for me, or am I doing the right things, but not as much as at how is my mood and my everyday presentation being influenced by my relationship, or are there different things that I'm doing or not doing to make sure I fit in this relationship? And I think we all do it, and it's important to know yourself first so that you can have the awareness to say, okay, am I putting on this front or this face because I want to fit this idea that I have? Am I overlooking things that I'm seeing in this person because I want things to work? All these things, but it really starts with awareness and a lot of introspection on what it is that you need and want and prefer and value.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So I think that relationships kind of exposes parts of us that we don't pay attention to. Just what both of you guys are saying. Sometimes you have to look at what your mate is reflecting in you. Like your mate is a reflection of you in some way. Even if they're the complete opposite, it's just showing something that you didn't realize within yourself that you chose this person. So I think that if we definitely have to be looking introspectively and then also just finding some root problems. So, and I know we'll get into that a little bit later, but yeah,
Absolutely.
your mate is a reflection of you in some way.
It's a mirror. Relationships are mirrors, whether it's exposing a strength of yours or something super positive and productive that you can bring to another person, or exposing an insecurity or a vulnerability that you might have not even known you had. And when we think about relationships too, it's like a lot of times our partner, our person, we love them more than anything in the world, and they also can get under our skin more than anything in the world. And why is that, right? A lot of that is not so much about them, but really about us.
Yeah.
And it's easy to deflect and, well, they on my nerves and they do this and da da da. Why is it bothering me so much though?
Yeah.
What is there that I can learn about myself in these reactions that I keep having that often get kind of pushed to the side because it's another person involved? So we can point and blame and X, Y, Z.
Yep. Which gets into the question is, one, if you are in a relationship, does your relationship, does it drain you, or is it helping to heal you? Or elevate you even, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's important too. And even I would go as far as to say, asking the relationship with yourself. If you're not in a relationship and you just have you, what are you doing in the relationship with yourself that is either draining, or are you helping to heal yourself? Because sometimes we have behaviors
Yeah.
and patterns that are actually hurting ourselves. It's self-sabotage. We get into situations or we make decisions and we're like, life is hard, and it is. But sometimes we create that, and then we get into relationships to numb or to run away, or to distract from that, so that then we could present or look to par, so that people can't see that really we are hurting. And so relationships is really critical. And the one that you have with yourself, honestly, is really the start in that foundation. And people think that, I thought this was really important to bring this to the podcast, because I think that it depends on how you were raised. Like, what did you grow up with? What was the culture, things of that nature. But I know, speaking for myself, relationships were like key. It was kind of like you were raised to become a wife. So I was raised in the church. It was always about becoming a wife, getting married, having a family. Like, that was like the thing. Everybody talked about it, right? Dating, even when you're young, it's almost like this experience, can't wait to date, So it's always about getting into a relationship. And that was something that you looked forward to. So I think that this is like this common message of like, that's the hope, that's the goal, right? But I don't remember any information about the relationship with yourself.
Yeah, that's so true.
I don't remember any messages.
No, never. But and it sends this, it creates this overall narrative that a romantic relationship is almost like not optional.
Right.
And it's just whatever you got going on in life and whatever else you're juggling, you're not complete if you're not in a relationship, or
Right.
you're not, you're not doing something right if you're not in a relationship. But, something that I hope we can shed some light on too in this episode is being in a relationship, one, is optional, and really
That's right.
does not really need to be a focus or a priority if you don't know yourself and if you don't know what it is that a relationship is going to do or bring for you. But because of societal influences and our family influences and just different generations of narratives that we have to change, there's a lot of pressure around relationships and being in one and finding the right one. But there's never any pressure or emphasis on, what is your confidence look like? What does your self-respect look like? What are your values? Do you even know, how how to identify if this is healthy versus not healthy. So we kind of skip over all that and just get you ready for a partner. And whoa, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Ends up looking good on the outside, but not so good on the inside. Social media worthy, if you will. But I always tell people, like, we're not responsible to make the other person happy, and that's not what the other person, your spouse or partner is. That's not their job either. You have to be able to find a happiness within yourself, and you come together and find happiness within each other. But if you're just looking for this person to fill in the gaps and fill in the voids that you've been missing all of your life, or that maybe even have come up within your young adulthood up until present day, all that stuff is going to get exposed, and it's not really going to work out in the long run. 'Cause now you're kind of not even, you don't know who you are, you don't know what you like or your values and all that. But you're so stuck on trying to please this person and wanting them to please you back, and it's not reciprocal, and that becomes an issue.
And it makes people scared of the alternative. Like, I can't tell you, both in my personal and professional life, I would say, but specifically, I work with a lot of clients who literally the fear is just being alone. And that is because of what we just said, these consistent messages from a young age that being in a partnership is, adds value and makes you more worth whatever. And so then we get into these situations. Now I'm an adult and I'm 40 years old, and I have always been in relationships, whether healthy or not, hop from one to another. Now I'm faced with this singleness, and it is like so terrifying to people and so uncomfortable. And so, then there starts to be this negative self-talk and what's wrong with me and why am I not in a relationship? It's okay. A relationship does not make you this like whole complete person. But when your whole life has been conditioned to where a relationship adds worth, then it faces people, or it leaves people facing a lot of difficulty and confusion when they're not in one. And what does this mean for me? And now what am I facing? And who am I? And it's a hard spot for people to exist in.
Yeah, I agree. And it's interesting because we don't, well, another reason why I was excited about this podcast is because people don't talk about mental health and relationships. It's always about when you hear the interviews and you hear, people bring up, well, what's a healthy relationship? Or, hey, this is what you need. This is what you need to find. We hear all this advice giving that's provided. And I was just like, this is something unique that we don't talk about, is the impact that it has on your mental health. And that mental health, to a lot of people, I think that people think that mental health is just internal, but it's also external. It's in our behaviors. It's in how we operate, how we function, right? And so, and it also helps us, like you said, it's like who we are, who we're with, their mirrors, and so how we respond, how our nervous system responds. All of those things are very telling. It gives us information about ourselves in a way that ultimately can help us in guiding us into where we are with ourselves and how we can grow, and what's healthy for us, what's not healthy for us. And also realizing that is not that's not an easy journey to walk in. Like you said, it can be a very scary place, which is why it's like having a licensed clinical person, professional to work with to help you kind of dig into that and unpack those places. But I think it's bringing more attention to the fact that choosing a partner or being in a relationship with someone, or just period relationships. In this case, we're going to talk about romantic relationships, but that in itself is, I would say, something where people don't realize the impact that it has on your mental health. And it's just not discussed very often. So that's why I really wanted to kind of dig into different behavior patterns and things that we see. One, us as professionals and working with clients, what do we often see with them, so that people can begin to, one, have language to like, oh yeah, I can relate to that, or start looking at, because I wouldn't have looked at either a relationship having anything to do with my mental health. That's so independent. Then, oh, well, if I'm happy and I'm in a relationship, then everything is all good. And yeah, they're going to get on my nerves, right? Like, that's fine. But not realizing how much it can truly impact
And
the
become that.
state of your emotions, the state of your thinking, and so many things, right?
Mhm.
You should, well, one would think you would know that to some extent, but it is in a forefront, and I'm hoping that we can kind of
Yeah.
help bring that a little bit more to the forefront in understanding that it's not a light decision.
No, for sure. As therapists too, I think we, and this is the piece that I agree with you, that I think a mental health professional can help bridge some of these gaps, because even in our work with clients, even at an initial session, and when we're assessing a situation, the questions that we ask, I think, are very intentional and help bring some insight and awareness to the clients. So if a client comes to me and they are anxious, right, present with a lot of anxiety, as the clinician, part of what we're going to ask is, how long have you been feeling like this? When did you first start noticing? I can't tell y'all how many clients, first of all, have never really thought about that, of when
Mhm.
it started. And then when they really start to think back, when did I start feeling anxious? When did I start feeling insecure and I'm worried about everything? When you started getting with that man, or
Mhm.
when you got into this relationship, and then it's like, wait, is this contributing to the
Mhm.
anxiety? But we don't think that. Like you said, there's a lot of separation that occurs, and we think that our mental health is just what we're dealing with, and then our relationship is another category. But how much is the relationship really contributing to some of these symptoms or just challenges that people have on the daily? And I think that's a hard truth sometimes for people to look at and say, dang, is my relationship, you know, detrimental in some ways,
Mhm.
or just harmful in some ways to my mental health?
Yeah. I also feel like looking at like attachment styles and all these things, which again that kind of goes back to like root cause stuff, but if you were never taught or modeled how to love anybody or what it even looks like to love yourself, you just kind of wouldn't know. And that takes a toll on your mental health as well, that you didn't realize that you were kind of just going on autopilot and making these decisions based off of things that you didn't know, just kind of what felt right at the time. And that can kind of make you feel like a crazy person sometimes once you figure it out or get closer to figuring it out. So having someone to talk to help map out, where did all this come from? When did it start? Even if it was childhood, adolescent years, would be helpful.
Yeah, I think one of the things too that who's listening, listeners can ask themselves is, how do I feel around people? Like you could test it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if if I have a friend and I'm with that friend and I feel safe and I feel good, that probably is the healthy relationship, right? If you feel like, if you, meaning that you don't feel like you have to diminish yourself. You don't feel like you have to walk on eggshells and manage how they're going to respond to you or what they're going to say. Um, they also allow space for you. You allow space for them. You can probably say that possibly is a decent relationship. But if you're around someone else and you feel like, oh man, I gotta walk through the door,
Mm-hmm.
or I can't wait to spend time, and let's say you go on that date and you're like, it turns bad, or it's always an argument, or there's something that helps you to kind of notice, okay, I need to start paying attention to certain things. So just like asking yourself, that is one way to kind of test it a little bit, is asking yourself, okay, how do I feel when I'm with one person? And then how do I feel when I'm with this person? And then it kind of helps you to learn and notice different things. And sometimes when if we're in that relationship and we are always feeling like this is draining me, this is a constant, I'm always fighting, or maybe whatever I say, I don't feel like I'm heard, or I feel like I'm always forgotten, I'm overlooked, or this person doesn't know me. Maybe you getting gifts and you like, this ain't even what I like, right? It's like some of those things like that, right?
Yeah.
Um, or that person is always telling you about their stuff, and when it's time for you to share your stuff, they ain't got time.
Mm-hmm.
um just various things, or they want you to adjust to them, but you're not, you see that they're, or you, the other way around, basically the adjustment is one-sided.
Yeah.
um those things are things to notice, right? How you feel. Now, I'm not saying that you should get out of the relationship. That's not what I'm saying. We're not out here giving advice.
Yeah.
But what I will say is to notice how you feel, notice yourself and how you respond to certain people, because it helps you to understand what feels safe and what may not be safe, even if sometimes we don't want to look at it,
Yeah.
because we will rationalize, especially if it's a person that we love and we care for, because your body has gotten used to it. And so that I think that's an important piece too, is a way to quickly test
Yeah.
that. And if that is the case and you find yourself like, dang, I'm always around my partner and I feel these things, you don't have to deal with that by yourself. You can reach out, and try to find a licensed clinical mental health professional that will help you through navigating that, because that can be tough, and say, okay, hey, I'm feeling this, but what does this mean? And that we are able to help you explore that and ask you those questions so that you can see for yourself, what is it that you feel, what do you think, and where exactly is that coming from? Maybe some things that need to be processed and talked through, um, because a lot of times too is what I've recognized. I don't know if you guys have seen it too. Sometimes your mental health is affected by your lack of acceptance or understanding of your own emotional um, needs, or even ways to identify your emotions. It's so
100%.
key.
I definitely agree. And because I think what you're speaking to is hard for people inherently to do that internal glance and how am I feeling around people? I think it's very easy to say this is how I'm perceiving somebody else to be. Oh, my partner's irritated all the time, or my partner is stressing me out, or my partner is, you know, in a positive mood or bringing down the mood, but our own kind of contributions and our own like signals in our body, I think is more difficult for people to pay attention to, which is another thing that I think therapy can benefit, because it it kind of opens the door to these things that we've identified are not really taught on a big scale, whether in your family or society. We're not hearing messages about paying attention inward and mindfulness. Like, that is pretty specific to a mental health and therapeutic space in a lot of ways. And so that becoming more of a natural instinct and normal for us to look inward and figure out, how am I feeling? Am I satisfied, or am I just here because I'm supposed to be, or because I think I should, or because my mama told me I needed to, or whatever the case. How much of it is genuinely fulfilling to self. Yeah.
Yeah. My favorite thing to use in sessions are the emotion wheels, because a lot of times people don't really know what they're feeling, and it might feel like anger, and that's the first thing they want to say was, "Oh, I'm mad." Okay, but what else is under the anger? And sometimes it might be disappointed. It might be I feel insignificant, or this person makes me feel overwhelmed, and it shows up as anger. But just speaking to what you said about like the emotional needs and knowing how you feel, sometimes we don't have the right labels for it.
Yep.
So we have to help build their emotional vocabulary to say, hey, so that you can properly say, this is how you made me feel, or this is how this situation made me feel. Even if you're not communicating it to someone else, you can understand what it feels like to you. Um, Even going a little further and pulling out a dictionary, because you might know what insignificant is as a word, but feeling that and seeing what the definition is and see if does that match how I'm feeling or what this feels like in my body. And if not, let's find something else to help you properly label that. But I think that's a great start of figuring out what it is that you feel or how you feel about these situations when you start to build your emotional vocabulary.
Emotional first. I think I agree 100%. And being able to guide people towards their emotional recognition. I feel similar about values, helping people explore, because I think half the battle is we get in these relationships and then fit into a role that may not be authentic to self. And what I recognize in working with clients is a lot of my clients don't know themselves very well. And I'll have a few that are in coming to mind right now that, I mean, we could be exploring something as perceivingly simple as, what are your interests? What are your hobbies? What do you like?
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't know, because I feel like we have this message oftentimes where my role is to be this person's partner.
Mhm.
But what do I even care about outside of that? Because
Yeah.
our relationship is not everything. We live in a world that our romantic relationship specifically becomes so central
Yeah.
to our
For
whole
everything else.
life. And that, it's not always a negative thing, but it's not always the healthiest thing either, because it puts so much pressure and so much of our identity in this relationship where it takes away from myself, me as an individual, because that's what a relationship is at the end of the day. Two individuals coming together. And in my work with couples and individuals, I frequently bring up the fact that you're not dating yourself. You are you, and you're in a relationship with another person who has their own unique set of XYZ. Are they going to fit together? The only way to know that first is to know yours, your values, your preferences, the things you like, the things that you want to build your lifestyle around and spend most time doing. But when we avoid or distract away from some of those things, which I think happens a lot, we can just put all our focus into another person. And then what I like isn't so important anymore. That's detrimental to self. Yeah.
Mhm. Speaking on that, so that hits home. I love that you brought that up because it is something where people discount the relationship with self, and a lot of times it's always about um how do I put it? Like I said, it becomes a goal to hurry up and get into a relationship where I know a lot of times it's uncomfortable. I know 20s can be hard to you get out of school, your social circle is kind of everybody's going to achieve their careers or go work or figure out what are they doing next after school is done if they've gone to school, or high school is done and everybody's trying to figure out what to do. So there's these transitions that happen. And in your 20s, it's like, okay, hey, let me go explore. But to some extent, too, depending on how you were raised, it's time to get married. Now it's the next step. So I think that one thing that actually affects us in a lot of times you go into getting into hurrying up getting in relationships is the fact that it's this checklist. Once I finish one thing accomplishment, it's time to go to the next thing. All right, I got the high school diploma. Yay. Now what do we do next? Well, we go to college. Okay, now we go to college or we go to trade school or maybe we go get that job. Whatever your direction is, that's next. Okay, I did all that. All right, now I got the career, I got the money. Well, now I need a partner. Okay, let's go get the partner.
Yeah.
But you see the absence of what about you? Where to say, okay, now it's time to work on me and identify what do I like. Let me travel. Let me figure out what do I like, what do I not like, the hobbies that I enjoy, just all those things and enjoying that time with self. But we see that as sometimes punishment. I've actually like talked to people, and I can even remember some of my social groups in my 20s where we would, people were like, I mean, we want to be in a relationship, right? So it was very much so of like, okay, what do you do? And it's like you don't even know what to do with yourself because ultimately everybody you see people getting married, you're seeing a lot of different things happen in 20s. And so people are almost it's like, well, it's a punishment if I'm single. Because everybody, let's say my social circle is all getting married or they've traveled and they're gone and you're by yourself, you don't even know what to do with yourself, right? And I've seen that oftentimes, and it's like that's something that our society constantly pushes, people into that checklist and how much sometimes we think that at a certain time or a certain age we got to accomplish this. So is the relationship accomplishment or is the relationship something that is actually developed and are we looking at here's another thing, not only just relationship with ourselves, but is the partner that we're choosing, do they have a relationship with themselves?
Right.
Or are we bleeding on each other? Right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing too, because even if let's say I develop a relationship with myself, right? And I'm looking, maybe I'm ready and I'm like, okay, I'm cool if someone comes and I want to be in a partnership. One of the things, if I did all this work on myself, I also need to make sure that someone else has their own relationship. They've developed boundaries. They know themselves. They've learned some lessons. They're clear about what their values are. Um, so that to make sure that that is something that we can partner with, right? And whatever works for us, right? And we're not negotiating in regard to so much compromise that we diminish ourselves And so I think that when I hear a lot of times, this advice that goes out, and that people are like going through to talk about, oh, let me see if I have a healthy relationship. Oh, I know I need to go get a person that has this and has these. I need a woman who has this. I need a man who has this, a high value that, a low value this, or this man. And we're putting people in these boxes, but it's like, that's so much judgment and we haven't really done the work. And I'm not just talking about healing from childhood wounds. We're talking about really knowing yourself and beyond whatever that childhood stuff is, learning essentially not only just interests and the stuff like that, but learning, are you a person who feels like they have to earn love? Are you a person that has spent their lives performing and looking to par? Are you a person that is lonely?
Mm.
Because sometimes we end up in relationships just because, honestly, out of pure, like I said, sometimes in your 20s, it's like, what's the next thing? Well, I'm lonely. Hey, this person seems like a good person. I'm going to be in a relationship with them. Or boarding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I'm bored, okay, somebody will entertain me.
Me.
Whatever, yeah,
Yep.
for sure.
Yep.
I
Yep.
think too, as you were talking, I was thinking about codependency. Like when
Mm-hmm.
we don't know ourselves or when we're with somebody who doesn't know themselves, it's
Mhm.
very easy for these codependent bonds to kind of be created into where it's like, I don't have to pay too much attention to the things that I like and need. Let me make sure this person is good, or let me make sure that I'm desirable to my partner.
Mhm.
Not so much, even if that's not aligning with the things that are important to self. And I think we get into a lot of patterns of, putting, I don't want to use the word fake per se, but kind of like putting this presentation on that is just that, is very performative. I think a lot of people are in performative relationships. I'll say it.
Yes, say it. Say it.
We get in, especially when you get into the social media, and that I think is extra difficult because the people who are maybe not in a relationship see the social media relationships and think, this is what I need, this is what I want to look like.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know nothing about what they got going on behind that Instagram post. And it's
Right.
probably not amazing, to be honest. Like,
Right.
it's these very kind of like snapshot ideas that we get, and we feel like that's what we need to strive for. And it kind of leads to a lot of, I think, settling too. I just need to be with somebody, period. I don't even need to pay too much attention to the alignment or if this is going to serve me in healthy ways. I just need there to be a partner so that I can, like you said, check that off. Check that off.
That is so real. I was watching this show. I'm not going to name the show, but I was watching the show, and the wife was married to, she was married, and in the marriage, she had there was a college sweetheart that they all kind of worked together, and the husband that she
I'm
was
over here
married
trying to be like, do I know the show?
You might. So, but what was interesting even in the show is that she was married to her husband. They was on the brink of probably, well, they were separated in somewhat in the house or whatever. But the college sweetheart worked with the husband, and so she was actually in secret telling a friend that she had developed a friendship with, basically like she sometimes, because her husband can't, he's a workaholic, that she sometimes second guesses if she should have married the college sweetheart, because he was more presentable and acceptable to her family. Now she chose who she chose, and it didn't really say why she chose him. Maybe it was because of rebellion to the family and what they wanted, but that's even another thing. All the things that influence us to have relationships, we need to be a little bit more self-aware of, am I making this decision? Again, going back to that relationship with self, am I making this decision because this is what I want? Or am I making this decision because this is also an aspect that sometimes happens, is our childhood, we call them archetypes, but you can have a parent that lives vicariously through you. So they push you to do things or accomplish things and be things that they actually want. And as the good and obedient child, you grow up and you become the adult that does everything that you think will appease the parents. So you become an adult trying to appease your parents versus an adult that is independent and autonomous in making their decisions that they feel like work for them.
I definitely agree. Trying to appease parents or I think there's some embarrassment which, I don't think that it's necessarily appropriate to feel the embarrassment, but embarrassment that comes from dang, it's the third year I sat down at Thanksgiving and my auntie asked me, are you going to bring somebody to
Oh,
Thanksgiving
yes,
next
hit
year?
on
Or my
that.
mama said, when we going to have grandchildren? Like, that is the type of pressure that people are getting
Yes.
that can then lead to these more hasty decisions or choices in a partner because you just kind of want to shut people up, whether it's your
Mhm.
family, whether it's this society, maybe it's even yourself that you want to shut up. Maybe you have a voice in your head of, I need this, I need a partner, and da da da. And so then we just do it. But I think that there's a lot of avoidance of learning ourselves that can take place when we jump into a relationship because now my focus can go on a whole different domain, and I can shift away from, is this what I need? Is this what is making me feel fulfilled and satisfied? Yeah.
And even with the avoidance, what about the avoidance of just being able to speak up for yourself against your family? Like you said, like, and I just have to say, like, we have to stop. This comes from outsourcing validation, the things that we need. We depend on our families and those that we love, and maybe even social media, all this stuff. And sometimes I do think that that convolutes our ability to notice certain things in ourselves. One, to even learn truly ourselves because we take so much from little pieces of information that we receive, and subconsciously, even what we watch, what we listen to, that shapes and influences who we are, right? And so I even tell clients sometimes, hey, I want you to go this week in between session and I don't want you to listen to nothing. I don't want you to watch nothing. It's a challenge. And if you do it, hey, don't beat yourself up, but let's just see. And let's come back and talk about how that experience was for you. Like every decision, even the smallest decision, you're not going to consult with nobody. It's just you. You decide, you do exactly what you want to do, what you think is best, and let's talk about what that seems like. Because once you cut that off, it's probably going to be, well, I know they say it's uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable. But it's also empowering because it's like, whew, all right, you know what? I made this decision and that felt fine for me. But sometimes it's like, hey, I had mama playing in my head, or I had such and such, or I had the boss, or I had these things, and it was hard to put the computer down, or it was, I
Yeah.
usually call to make sure this is the right decision, or, and so it's like we get so caught up in asking others for permission or acceptance, right? Or is this the right thing to do? Is he or she, what do you think about them?
Yeah.
And that's not to say that you shouldn't have or bring your special person around or see what people think, because people can see blind spots, see your blind spots. You want your loved ones to be able to look and say, am I missing anything?
Yeah.
Do you see something that I don't? So that I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is sometimes we can be overly consumed by obtaining as a way distraction and avoidance of us making a decision, and we end up making the decision that everybody else is good with that we are not really sold on. But we become sold because grandma put the stamp on it, or mama said, yeah, he's such a good man, or mama said, oh, that's a wonderful woman, yeah, she's good. So we're looking for that, and then when we get into the relationship, that's where a lot of times then we see people, and you learn, it's like, you know what, yeah, when they look back, they're like, I don't know if I really made this decision. I don't know that this was a decision I would have chosen, or, I'm not that person anymore. And sometimes it's like, you know what, that was good for that season. And then sometimes you say, you know what, that's not working with me anymore. So it's about alignment and kind of understanding that you may evolve too. Because again, back to what I was saying earlier, is the version of yourself that may have presented during the time that you made the choice, it may not be the same version that you stay. And so being able to know yourself allows you that space to be in that journey of having that relationship with yourself, so that then you are attracting someone on that same wavelength,
Yeah.
same vibration. They're on that same frequency with you. They're always evolving and growing. So there's because they have a relationship with themselves too, and you're supporting that. They're supporting your growth. And it's not, I depend on you. I need you. I always say that sometimes we defer our decisions or what we feel to another person. And if the person feels like I always got to, baby, you look good today, okay, hey, baby, how do I look? Do I look good? Yeah, you look good, babe. If I'm always needing that from you, then it becomes a chore. And then it's not a compliment anymore.
Yeah.
Now it's a task. And so we have to be conscious of our own habits and things that mentally that we can be requesting of someone or requiring or expecting of another person, because then that affects their mental health, because your mental health is avoiding certain things in yourself, and you're casting that out, projecting that to give that to somebody else to do for you.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a therapist, I cannot remember her name at the moment, but she said it was like, tell me how you were loved as a child, and I'll tell you how you love as an adult. So just how you were talking about not being able to trust your own decision making, having to get other people's opinions, not knowing what you like or you need, having that codependency or not feeling important if you're not helping somebody, if people don't need you, that affects your identity. All of that plays a role in something that started from somewhere. And if it didn't come from parents, did it come from your teenage experiences, how people made you feel then? But not being able to trust your own decision making, were you second guessed all the time as a kid? Did someone tell you that you weren't good enough? Was there still times where you still feel like you're not good enough and you just don't trust your decision making? Have you made multiple bad decisions in relationships and not figured out what that was, and now you're just like, I don't even know. I just know it felt good at the time. And so we're here, but that runs out and it doesn't work anymore. So being able to take that step back and trying to understand, where did that come from? Why don't I trust myself in my own decision making? How is this making me feel? What voice is speaking? Your core beliefs, getting down into your core beliefs, I think that helps to understand what your emotional unmet needs are, because it speaks very loud when someone makes you feel away. And if it's, let's just say, because we talked about it already, not choosing or not trusting your decision making, if that shows up, what's the core belief that's poking out to you the loudest?
Yeah.
What's that? And I've had my own experiences with not trusting my decision making. I'm always asking, well, Mom, what you think? Or sister, what you think? And it's just kind of like I'm going with the flow of everybody else's opinions. I had to put that mirror back up to myself, and it's like, why do I need to ask? I don't need to ask. It's not their decision. They're not the ones that's in this relationship. And when it doesn't work out, it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with me. I think that's another thing that shows up with people, is like, they see the social media and they see their friends getting married and having babies and just living this happy life, or at least it looks like a happy life. And when theirs don't succeed multiple times, it's like, well, what the heck is wrong with me as a person? It doesn't necessarily mean that something's wrong with you, but what are you not looking at?
Yeah.
And was the relationship maybe wrong?
Yes, right.
It's
Yes.
big, because with relationships in general, tell me if this is y'all experience too, but I feel like people can fall out with a friend, people can even fall out with a family member, and there are times that it's significant and it's heavy, but a lot of times I see that it can get brushed away a little bit easier. If you fall out with that partner and that relationship, that romantic relationship is coming to an end, is detrimental. I mean, it feels like so much grief and so much loss. Like, why is it so heavy, and why do we put so much pressure on the romantic relationships when even within them, I think, and I'm gonna keep using this avoidance word, but we will avoid leaving or ending a bad romantic relationship way more than we would avoid cutting off a friend, or even I might have to take a little space from my mama for a little bit, but this partner, you know what I'm saying? It's just different. And I think even I'm thinking of a client who recently was kind of taking some time. She was traveling, right, without her partner, and talking about how much better she's been feeling. And she's like, but it's because, I've been seeing all these new places and I've been interacting with new people and I'm around my family and all these things. But the one thing she wasn't saying is, I'm also away from this person and I'm feeling really good. And that is important too. But we don't want to look at that piece, because that might mean ugh, that might mean this really is not a great relationship
Yep.
or that we need to be looking at a different direction. But that's just a very, I see people have a much harder time accepting that like lack of compatibility opposed to a different relationship that's maybe not a romantic or a partner. Why do y'all think that is? It's so much easier to cut off a friend, but not my man or my girl or whoever.
Yeah, I
What's the
think
roots?
so. I think that people get used to taking breadcrumbs. I like to call them breadcrumbs, and they get full off of these breadcrumbs. Either that or this person has.
What do you mean?
So breadcrumbs are not the constant things that you like. You, let's just say you value love, you value respect, you value quality time, right? And you're with someone who in the beginning they might have given you all of that, and then over time it's just kind of, let me give you some of this here. I'll give you some quality time here. I respect you sometimes. And then that sometimes becomes the meal. That, but are you really full? You're not. You're just kind of hanging on to that. And your identity gets tied into this relationship. And now this relationship is your lifeline. And again, it attacks your identity. If you don't have this person, what does it say about you? If you don't have this person, how uncomfortable are you going to feel? If you don't have this person, who is going to keep you from thinking about all the things that you, all the negative things that you think about yourself? You know, like you get the breadcrumbs because they make you feel comfortable. It keeps you in your little bubble. But having to face the music means you're going to have to face, what does it say about me? You're going to have to listen to some of these voices in your head and not take them in, but learn how to challenge them. And you might not really know how to do that. And that's scary. Change is scary. So being able to take that step back also again and just kind of look at, is this person, am I viewing them as my lifeline? Are they filling all the voids a little bit, just here and there? And am I okay with that? More than likely, you're not really okay with the breadcrumbs. It's just not. It's just not going to fill you up like you want it to. But I think the fear of cutting all of that off and having to sit by yourself and face the music and see people and say, "Hey, we're actually not together anymore." I think that scares people sometimes.
I agree.
I agree with that. I would also say that I think that I'm trying to put it in words. I've seen clients, and I've just experienced in my own observation, and even in my own personal, is that it is an identity, but it's also, I wonder, and this is just kind of me putting this out there. I wonder if it's also the fact that I think that we have been programmed not to be ourselves so much that we are scared to actually have the audacity to be authentically who we are. And what would be the backlash from that, right? If I was to really say and walk away from this relationship, right? Not only what does it say about me, but what does it expose, right? And a lot of times is that, you know what? Hey, maybe I don't want to be in a relationship anymore. What if, and what? You know, you want to be single? Well, you're too old and da 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 da. It could be that, right? Or it's, well, like you might, well, you also have things where like a lot of women, they have kids, and there is like shame that people shame you when you're not with the kid's father. Just depending on what you grew up with, what you believe, but there is that cultural pact. And I will say that I have heard many times in dating that it is hard to date when you have, children, because a lot of men or women or whoever are more so like, no thanks, and so that can take a hit to your self-esteem a little bit, and I would say to that is, again, how comfortable are you with owning your life, owning what your intuition says, what is it that you want, and being real with yourself. I mean, I think we were talking about earlier, the performing, the presenting, the representative that shows, and doing what you think is right that everybody else agree with. But I think I do wonder if sometimes we're attached to the partner so much because we don't want to be exposed for the fact that we may not want that relationship, that we may be better without that relationship. And sometimes it's even if I walk away from that relationship, with that? Have I injured that other person? Sometimes I'm worried about
For sure.
if I walk away, I have just possibly hurt somebody else, right? And I've heard that too is I can't walk away because then they wanted to be married. They wanted this life and all these things. And now that person is forced to be single
Yeah.
or not to be in that relationship anymore. And so some people are scared of that and the rupture that that would also create. But again, it also exposes the fact that you have the audacity to be authentic, and authentic requires a level of ownership and accountability that says I got to own my decisions. I got to own, my what I like, what I don't like, and I also have to own the fact that I may need to speak up, about something being best for me versus whoever in the fallout of all the people who may not agree with it.
For sure. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, 100%. 100%. And it does. I think the language and the messages going back to that we get around singlehood are just negative.
Yeah.
We think about feeling lonely and we think about having to be so independent. We can't rely on anyone for help. We think about, coming home at the end of the day and how all these messages that are negative. And I'll be the first to say transparently, I'm a lover girl. I'm very, I think a healthy relationship that is bringing meaning and value to both partners' life is a great thing and is a beneficial thing. I also think there are beautiful things about being single that people can't even really get to because the negative messaging is so strong. Have you ever been in a position where you can make all of your decisions based on what you want? It's like the example you provided earlier. Not having to consider another person in everything that you do is very eye-opening. It can be very freeing and can be very empowering. That is a perk of being out of a relationship that people don't talk about. Being able to spend more time on the things that you truly care about genuinely, not just, okay, now my week or weekend has to go towards what my partner likes to do or da da da. I mean, there's a lot of beauty in that people don't recognize. And the last thing I'll say about, I guess, singlehood when it comes to not being in a romantic relationship, it opens up a lot of spaces for love and connection that are not just romantic. We associate our connections with human beings so much as like, well, I have a partner, so I'm connected. But our friendships and our family relationships and things, there are so many other spaces. Even our colleagues, people that we just see in the community, there are a lot of spaces for connection and love that we are often a little bit blinded by or blinded to, not able to see because we're so caught up in the romantic relationship. So I think if there was a little bit more language and just positive reframing around what it means to be single, that could be helpful. And again, I'm not saying single is better or single is
Right.
the way at all, but I think that most people might find themselves in a period of singleness or whatever at some point in life, and it's important that doesn't just have this heavy negative feel all the time because it's very opportunistic as well to be in that space.
You should desire a relationship. If you desire a relationship, that's okay, is
For
really what
sure.
I meant to say.
For sure.
If you desire a relationship, that's good. That's fine. If you don't desire a relationship, that's good. That's fine. But I think the key to that is something I've learned, don't let your desire for something outweigh where you are and what it is that you need to be doing for yourself. Because sometimes our desire for something is so much stronger that we end up jumping into decisions and making decisions that we're not really ready for. Or we haven't done the work, or we're not looking at all the things. So we got all the red flags, right? But it's here. And I jump into it because I think it's that, well, because it's meeting an inner desire of some things that you have not dealt with or you have not done the work to notice enough.
Exactly.
And so the breadcrumbs, right? So sometimes somebody can come into your life giving you a lot of the things that you've been looking for. And so your desire to be in connection with another person, it looks like this may be healthy, but what if it's not?
Right.
And you haven't honed in that inner voice or that self-trust fully yet. And so everybody else may be like, yeah, they're great. Yeah, this person is checking the boxes. And you find yourself again in a relationship and probably disappointed,
Mhm.
possibly, And so it's really about not the desire is healthy, whether it's to be single or it's to be in a relationship with someone. But it's so important to be able to know that you have honed that voice and that you understand your values and you do understand your childhood and what you've gone
Mhm.
through. Um, you don't necessarily, I like to tell people, you don't have to feel like you fully healed
Right.
to be in a relationship.
I was just gonna say that
I
too.
don't think that that's the thing because some healing comes a part of life throughout life. It's not something that happens in a setting.
Yeah.
It's a journey, and who you are in relationship and who you choose helps to further that
Mhm.
growth and development, or it hinders it and wounds you more.
Yeah.
And that was, that something that I wanted to bring out even, before. And I think, Tanisha, I had a question for you is when we think about roots, what is it when it comes to I've heard clients say this. I've heard people say this. I listen to like interviews and just different things. And when people are seeking that advice to like know about, well, I keep being in these relationships and they all end up bad. And so it says this about me and I just can't find myself in a good, but I see homegirl over there, or I see brother, he got him a good, and my hair's together. I got a good paying job. I got a house. I got a car. I ain't got no kids. I'm all this. Why do I continue to be in these relationships that's not working?
Yeah.
What's wrong with me? And I've done the work. I've been in therapy. I have a good family. I don't understand what's the problem.
Mhm. I think people don't look at the why behind their desires. Like the desire might be there. I want, let's just say a man. I want a man. I want my, this house to look like this. I want this many kids. But why? And what is it that you want that to even look like? I think that people kind of get lost in that part. One thing I like to point out to my couples is that we are two individuals trying to become one. It's not just we become one as an individual when we get into these unions, right? You're still two different people with two different loads of baggage. You got all your luggage and you're trying to fit all this stuff in one car. We need to be able to unload some of that and understand the why. Why am I carrying this bag? Why am I carrying this bag? Why did I pack this with me? So understanding the why behind the desire, what is it that you're actually looking for? And I think that really goes back to those unmet emotional needs. If you need your partner to show up this way, why do you need that? What does it do for you and your person, your identity, your feelings? What does it do for you to make you desire this so much? And if your desire is outweighing, you're not really paying attention. Again, like you said, it's not bad to want to have a relationship. It's not bad to want to be single, but understanding the why behind it. Another part of self-disclosure, I was single for a long time. And people would come up to me and say, "Oh, why are you single?" That's men's favorite question. Y'all stop asking that. Please.
Right.
I hate that question. But why are you single? And I'm like, because I want to be, oh, so you crazy. No, actually, I'm not. I'm pretty sane.
Make you feel like you're
But
effective or something.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. My desire to be single was rooted in not feeling trapped from my own past relationships because they made me feel absolutely trapped. Narcissists and just super jealous people and everything else. That made me not want to be in relationships. And then when I would get lonely, it was just kind of like, okay, well, what do I do? Because I don't really want to get close to someone. That became my attachment style. It was almost avoidant in a way. I want you, but over there, you know,
Mhm.
keep over there. And I had to look into myself like, okay, you want a relationship, but you don't want to get close to anybody. Why is that?
Mm.
I had to understand that. And it didn't just come from past relationships. The avoidant piece did,
Mhm.
but even being a people pleaser and going with the flow and understanding that that part came from childhood that I didn't even realize. But if we don't stop and understand why is the urge there, it's just how we do in addictions too. When you have an urge or a trigger, understanding what is the root cause of it. Is it that, okay, let's just say you're bored and you're at home and you want to call this person who you know good and well is not fitting the value or the goal that you have for relationships, what is it that you're really wanting? Sex is always a big thing for relationships, situationships, ships. Okay. So sex becomes a thing, but is it really sex that you're wanting? Or are you lacking intimacy? And do you really feel like intimacy is sex, or could it be companionship? Could it be hanging out with your friends? Could it be having a conversation? But we're not looking at that because sex is the easy way. That's the easy way out. And so I think we get used to taking the easy, most comfortable route, even if in the long run we're not really paying attention to that part and how it's going to affect us. But it's comfortable, and people like comfort. We're afraid of the uncomfortable.
I think a lot of people stay in relationships because of that, because of the comfort and because of the uncertainty with what it would look like on the other side. Even y'all, I'm sure y'all have heard as therapists the saying, like our brain will choose. Let me not butcher it. Your brain will choose an a familiar hell over an unfamiliar heaven every time, because even if we know and we can rationally say there's not alignment here, this is not what I've, based on what I've learned about myself, this doesn't fit with my values and desires. Well, leaving or changing or having to, like you said, show this other side of myself to where I'm really able to step away in a way of self-advocacy and like knowing what I need, that's uncomfortable. And so that kind of keeps us, I think, oftentimes stuck or trapped in these cycles, because it's just what we've learned to tolerate. A lot of tolerating is happening in relationships.
Yeah.
Which we could talk about that for a whole nother 60 minutes.
Got to learn how to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. There's no growth in the comfortability.
Yeah, no.
So if you find yourself in cycles, there's a reason why. We got to.
And what type of comfortable, right? Because I could be in a healthy relationship and be uncomfortable, but then I can be in a healthy relationship and be uncomfortable. So it's like understanding what the discomfort is bringing you and what is it doing to you. Because you could be in a dysfunctional relationship that's not good for you, and it's like, this isn't comfortable to me. But what is that discomfort saying? Is that discomfort really trying to tell you you might need to do something different? Or if you in a healthy relationship and this person is all about you and doing all the things, but you like, this is weird. Like, stay over there. You also got to see, what is that challenging? Is this challenging me to come close, to bring the guards down? What is that discomfort doing? Because see, that's the illusion sometimes. Oh, but it said it was uncomfortable, so I gotta go.
Yeah.
Gotta go if he's out. Put on my track shoes, I'm out, right?
Yeah.
But and people do look. There are folks that do look for that, men and women. I have clients, men and women, and men will do the same thing. I'm head out this way.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, hold up, wait. Let's examine that discomfort real quick, right? Like, that's not the same discomfort that you felt in that last relationship. This is actually doing something different here.
Yeah.
So I love when my clients get to that space where they're dating and they talk about it, because it's like, oh, okay, cool. Now we get to test the skills.
Yeah.
So I get excited about that. I wanted to kind of note a couple of things. So for people that are listening, one, like I said, the reason for this podcast and talking about this is because there's a lot of advice given out there, right? And especially when you're hurting and you're in that late night hours and you sit next to that partner and you got your phone and you doom scrolling and you going through your YouTubes and your TikToks, and somebody say something and be like, I would right here. You know what I mean? We want them to get it. Or we sending constant text messages. See, this is what you not doing, or advice, and you're taking the advice about what you think so on and so forth got this relationship. They're talking about their relationship and they're talking about being high value, or they're talking about having these standards and these expectations and things of that nature. And that stuff is all good. I'm not saying or knocking anything, but I think I want to bring it back to where having professional support is so important, because it's the tools and it's the skills that help you to dig deeper, not you looking for advice outward, but the soul solution. Finding in yourself the solution that fits you and your life and your purpose, and that's aligned with truly who you are, and who you are destined to be. I think that we don't have enough people helping us to challenge us to say, what is it that you think? What is it that you want, baby?
Mm-hmm.
What's going to make you happy? What makes you feel supported? We have friends and we have videos and folks that are pushing what worked for them.
Yep.
And we take that and we think that they know better. And my encouragement to those that are listening is that that worked for them. But what works for you? And if you are having a hard time understanding and fine tuning that, then that and you're ending and you're dissatisfied in your relationship, whether it's in your relationship with yourself and your singleness or a relationship with someone else, and you're trying to figure it out, this is where support is available to be able to ask the tough questions, to challenge and give you space to reflect on things that you maybe don't even know how to process or you don't know how to sit with.
Yeah.
You know, therapy isn't about having some major issue or breakdown, or like we always say, it don't mean you got to be crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's just having that support and a space to be able to sit just like this and say, how did that make you feel?
Mm-hmm. And to explore yourself. I think therapy can be helpful in that way because it's not natural to be sitting in your house chilling and let me get into this reflection mode and really think about how satisfied I've been lately. Like, that's just not the reality for most people. And I think therapy can be a good tool. And like we said earlier, even if it's relationship specifically, you don't have to be single to work on yourself. I think a lot of identity exploration can be done while you're in a relationship
Absolutely.
too, and that can be where clinicians and professionals come in and help you recognize, okay, now we're getting to you and getting into some things. Now let's take that to your relationship, and is it a fit, is there compatibility, or is there something else that needs to be looked at? But it is, it's something that I encourage people to seek guidance and to seek professional, because again, when it's not something that we're taught, right, or it's not something that we do inherently, then we might need a little hand to do so, and that's okay, because the other side of that is feeling more confident in who you are and what you need, and that will, even if it's just on your side at first, we'll worry about the partner later.
Right.
That will bring a healthier relationship because you're coming that way.
Yes.
And you're coming more self-understood. And that's big and it's necessary.
Mm-hmm. I also think therapy provides a safe space for accountability.
Yes.
Especially when you have good therapeutic rapport with your clients, and you can just kind of keep it real with them. It's been plenty of times I'm like, girl, are you sure that's what it was? Or could it have been? And they're just like, yeah, maybe it was.
Because you just said this last week. But now
Yeah.
you're saying this.
Like,
What's that about? Yeah.
I'm noticing that this is the pattern, but you have a safe space for someone to do that. Whereas if you're talking to your homegirl, she might be like, girl, why are you doing this? This feels stupid. And that language itself might make you feel defensive, and now you shut down. So therapy kind of gives you that space to be held accountable, to discuss it safely, and to actually explore some things with that therapist, and so that you can understand yourself. And sometimes I will say going to therapy might make you realize that your current relationship isn't actually a good fit, and that is okay. That's all right. And it might make your relationship grow. Again, that's great if it does. But once you start learning more about yourself, you start being okay with the things that don't fit and understanding why it's okay that they didn't fit. And you can move on to a healthier relationship. So therapy has been great for that.
I agree.
I do want to note too, I get this a lot of times. I don't know if you guys hear this in sessions, but sometimes it's like when someone starts talking about, they get comfortable, start talking about the relationships that surround them, and they'll say, well, I don't want you to feel, I don't want you to judge such and such because when they said this, they're not a bad person. And so I always try to gently remind my clients, and I want to share this with you, if you are looking for a therapist and you're worried about, you might have a lot to say about the person that you're with or the relationships that you're in. Our job isn't to judge the other person or the people that you talk about or you describe or you share. It's a trusted space. We aren't looking at the person's character at all. We're not judging them or you at all. It really is about you just being able to have a safe place to talk and discuss, and us to be able to utilize the skills that we have using evidence-based interventions and practices to help mirror safely some things that you may be ready for so that you can see some patterns and you can see some things and kind of connect it and gain better insights. And then you be able to make choices about your actions, your behaviors, and things that you might need to do for yourself. So I just like to put that out there because I know that sometimes it's a big thing of like, I don't want to make this person seem like they're a bad person
Yeah.
because I feel this way. And that is the difference between talking to the homeboys and the girlfriends and things of that nature, because sometimes the language does feel a little judgy when you're talking, whereas with a professional, we don't know this person. And to be honest, that's not our place to judge anybody. It's just more so of like, let's look at the behavior. What is it having? What effect is it having on your daily function, on you yourself, on your mental health, and getting down to that so that you can feel empowered and you can feel like have the power that you have to be able to make better choices, decisions, or figure out what works for you. Um,
Agreed, for sure. And you have something else? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say one last thing is as we wrap up, we discussed a lot today, and I know that there may be some lingering questions of like, well, how do I know that what is a healthy relationship? So you're always looking at that. And so I just want to give a few things before we like final wrap up. And I would say one, healthy relationships are not perfect relationships. I think we discussed this. You don't have to necessarily get out of the relationship. You don't necessarily have to abstain from relationships. It's just more so understanding that relationships is an ongoing process and that it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have everything. You don't have to be perfect. But a healthy relationship would look like emotional safety exists. So when you think about the relationship with yourself, that's the same thing. Do I even feel like I understand my emotions? Do I understand how I react? And how do I respond or react to things? That's something to notice. Accountability, right? Understanding that accountability, I can bring something up and it's not explosive or it's not ignored or avoided by all costs. And can I hold myself accountable when I make a mistake? Can I own that? Right? So again, same thing, relationship with self, healthy relationship with self and healthy relationship with other people. Another thing is communication. Does communication exist? Am I checking in with myself? How do I feel? What's going on with me? If I'm relationship with self, if I'm in a relationship with someone else, is there ability to not just talk, but can we communicate? Can we discuss conflicts or things? Can we disagree? Can we, talk about and explore? Like, what does that communication look like? Or is it, oh, I gotta wait. I can't really say this. I gotta figure out how to say. If that's thing, that may be something to talk about. Repair exists. Both parties look to, hey, I know we discussed A, B, C, and D, and this may have rubbed you the wrong way. And I wanted to talk about what is it that we can do better for each other. And that shouldn't just be one-sided. So healthy looks like, hey, I mess up every day. Hey, maybe something came out and you left the milk out and Tanisha,
Yeah.
you know what, my bad. You have talked to me about that. I'm sorry. That is that accountability aspect, but that you're willing to repair. It's not the end all be all. It's not, we breaking up, it's over with just because that one thing happened. And individuality is respected. You can exist liking the things that you like, doing the things that you do, and I can exist too with the things that I like and the things that I do, right? I think that is the start. That's not an exhaustive list, but that just is a start to understand what healthy can look like, and examining that not only just with others, but even with yourself. Do you guys have anything to add to that before we close?
I just agree, and I think you hit a lot of things that really could be expanded upon, which is why we just might have to have a little relationship series, right, and just get into a few other parts, because I do think that that is an area that is challenging for people to know what is healthy, what is my healthy, right? Because it's not homeboy on social media is healthy, and it's not the famous person who does these relationship advice, and it's not always what's going to work for you. And so having the support, we definitely as Soul Solutions are here and encourage you to reach out. We have I appreciate about Soul Solutions, we have a diverse, population, even of clinicians. We have male and female, different ethnicities. We have LGBTQ affirmative clinicians. So definitely whether it's current relationship barriers, whether it's barriers within yourself that you want to kind of work through to learn more about what relationships would serve you, we definitely are here and want to support.
Mm.
For sure.
My biggest thing I think was just how do you feel? Do you feel safe? Do you feel safe in your relationship? Again, safe to communicate, safe to be around them, safe to be yourself. And if you notice signs that you're not safe or you don't feel safe in multiple areas, it might be time to reevaluate. And being interested in what serves you and what feels good for you is not selfish. It's necessary because we are two individual people.
Can you say that one more time?
It is not selfish to care.
Foundational.
Yes, you have to know what you like. You have to know what you want. You have to know what you desire and how this person fits into your life and how you fit into theirs. So it has to be a safe space for both. But as long as that, I'm sorry, that's what I was saying earlier. If you have multiple areas where that doesn't feel safe, reevaluate, and that's okay. If it has to end, that's okay, and you'll be okay, and you'll find somebody else who would actually fit once you put the work in for self and understand self a little bit better.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Well, thank y'all so much for tuning in and for listening. Definitely will be back with this group and just other branches of this topic. We definitely recognize romantic relationships are a big part of life, and it doesn't have to be a negative thing, but I think there's a lot of, like you said, foundational pieces that can be in place to just help them thrive more.
Yeah.
So we're on social media. You can check us out on our website, soulsolutionsccs.com. And we will be back next month with another episode.
Yes.
Have a great
Bye,
day.
y'all.
Bye.
I like that. Yeah. Bye.